All right, not to keep beating on a dead horse, but this Carvana thing is getting out of control. Carvana's dealer's license was suspended again this week. This is October of 2022 in Michigan, and this is after many suspensions in many states, Illinois, Florida, over the last couple years, and title problems going back farther than that. So what gives? What could be behind this? Now, what we're going to say here is not anything that's known for fact. It's all speculative, hypothetical. It's just kind of spitballing. So don't take this as this is a fact, or this is an opinion, or this is, an indictment of Carvana, or even derogatory about Carvana. Just some questions of how this could be happening, because this is not a normal title problem. Look, every dealership sometimes runs into problems processing paperwork. Then maybe they lose a good employee and they get jammed up. But to have it happen chronically for 2 years could indicate some other deeper problems. One could be that they don't have a title department that's competent. But you would think that after a year or two, they could, even if you throw money at the problem, you hire 5 great title people or hire 10 great title people, just hire experts at this process. The fact that after being suspended 2 or 3 times in other states, they get suspended again at the end of 2022 means maybe the problem is outside of their control. What problem could that be? Again, this is not fact. This is pure hypothetical, and we're just asking a question. Could Carvana be what's called out of trust? Out of trust is when you are not keeping up on your floor plan payments. Floor plan is a line of credit that a dealership gets from a bank, from a lender, to finance their inventory. So when you're a dealer, even if you're a normal new car dealer, you have 100 cars on your lot, and they're all $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you have millions of dollars worth of inventory on each location. Take Carvana that has multiple locations. They can have tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars worth of inventory sitting on their lots. Well, most companies, big or small, they don't have that kind of money that they want to put out in cash sitting in inventory. So what you do is you get a line of credit. And the way that works is when you buy vehicles or you get vehicles, the lender fronts you the money for those vehicles. They give you an advance, but they hold the titles. They hold the titles. When you sell a vehicle, you take the money from the customer that paid for it, and you take your profit off of that, and you pay the lender for that vehicle, and they give you the title. And then you take the title, you send it to DMV, and they process it into the new owner's name. Well, what happens if you don't have the money? What happens if you take that $30,000 or $40,000 that the customer paid, instead of paying off your credit line, you use it to pay payroll, rent, other expenses? Now that lender holds your title, right? You're supposed to sell it. You're supposed to give the money as soon as you sell the vehicle, within 48 hours in most floor plan line of credit contracts. If you don't pay it right away, you're what's called out of trust, meaning that you're collecting money. That money belongs to the lender. It doesn't belong to you as a dealer, and that violates the agreement. Well, what if they're doing that? That would explain why they don't have the titles to give to customers if they can't pay off these loans fast enough because they need the cash for other things. It's not like Carvana is flush with cash. They have negative cash flow. Sure, they have capital reserves, they have financing conventions, they have other facilities for cash, but they need it for other things. They're burning through cash. They have a negative cash flow on their operations. Again, we're not saying this is the case, but we're just hypothetically questioning whether or not this might be a reason why a company that's a national public company on the stock market with multiple locations is repeatedly running into title problems. I don't know what other solutions that people have thought of or other reasons. This is just one of them. Are they out of trust with their floor plan lender? I don't know if they have a floor plan. They might not. They might own their cars for cash, for all I know. And if they do, I don't know who their floor plan lender is. Floor plan lenders typically do audits where they check the inventory, but maybe being a public company, they don't audit them as heavily, or there's not as much scrutiny. And there are ways to get around floor plan audits as well. So, what is the reason? If a dealership had problems with titles once, twice, over a couple months, there could be other reasons for it. But if it's chronic and it keeps coming up in different states and different areas, it kind of indicates that it's more than just a one-time thing. There's something systemic within the company that's making this occur. This is just one example of what it could be. Again, hypothetical. We're not accusing them. We're not saying this is the case. We're just wondering, what is the reason why after you have legal problems, and I think in Illinois, they arrested one of the executives under criminal law for these title problems. After your executive is arrested or indicted or whatever he was, allegedly, wouldn't you make sure that you don't have these title problems in another state, in Michigan? And if you do, it might indicate maybe it's beyond your control. Maybe there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe you're just incapable of fixing this title problem. And if that is what the problem is, could it be a floor plan out of trust? And I know floor plan out of trust sounds very complicated to people not in the automotive industry, but it's very common. Every single dealership has a floor plan line of credit where you buy cars. Even small used car lots have a line of credit. Sometimes it comes from the auction, sometimes it comes from a bank. But if you're a dealer, there's a lot of money sitting out in your lot. If you add up all the cars, even a small used car dealer with 20 cars at $10,000 a piece, that's $200,000 in inventory for a small little rinky-dink used car lot, right? So imagine how big that inventory capital is going to be for Carvana. And that line of credit could be their Achilles heel. That could be what it is. In fact, sometimes you have to pay off some of the older ones to get the new ones, and it's like a shell game. You're just constantly running into problems. We've seen dealerships get shut down for floor plan out of trust issues and then have had millions of dollars overhang that were never recovered by the lender. Even some very prominent new car dealerships. Do a little research on floor plan line of credit out of trust. You'll see what we're talking about. And who knows? In the scheme of things, Carvana might pull out of all this, fix their problems, get some good title people. But it'll be interesting to see how this works out, especially with their stock price crashing and the used car market going through an upheaval. It may be beyond the point of no return. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with all this. Again, remember, this is not fact. It's not something that's certain. Nobody knows what's going on. It's just hypothetically thinking, running through possibilities of what could be happening with Carvana. I feel bad for them. I mean, if they're running into trouble and you're a big company, you want to fix these problems. But the question is, if it's something that keeps happening, maybe they can't fix it, because you would think that a big company would just throw all hands on deck and get this handled. But if it keeps happening over and over, what's really going on behind the scenes? I wish I knew. I wish somebody, journalists could find this out. But even though it's a public company, a lot of their internal finances are not disclosed to the public because it's trade secrets.